As you know, with the offseason, there's going to be a lot of rumors, a lot of things mentioned about the Chicago Cubs and the possibility of where or who they could land in free agency during the winter. Also, we have to talk about the possibility of where former Chicago Cubs that are free agents could potentially land in free agency this year. We got to talk about the Dodgers and their potential pursuit of Kyle Tucker, even though these dudes are still playing right now, headed to the World Series as we speak. And of course, pitching for the Chicago Cubs is going to be the main thing. So we got some things to talk about. Excited to talk with you guys about it. Let's go. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. I'm your host, Mike Jones. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode. I appreciate you so much. Hey, listen, guys, if this is your first time watching, please make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you are a consistent listener, watcher of the podcast, first and foremost, I appreciate you so much. Secondly, what are your thoughts about the show? Please leave them below. Let me know, guys, what you think of the show, how we could be better. Like I said, I appreciate everybody that is tuning in and everybody, like I said, that supports the channel right here on Chicago Cubs Central. Now, listen, with that being said, guys, we have some news, some big news that came over the weekend. The Cubs, we know, we talked last week, they have a Shota Imanaga problem. Shota, we had hoped would have made our jobs and honestly management's jobs a lot more easy, if that's the right way to put that. Anyways, made their jobs easier had he pitched well enough this season, which Shota, I thought, had a decent season. He was not Shota of 2024, but at the same time, he was not absolutely dreadful, horrible, like, get this guy off my team, which actually, honestly, would have been easier for us as Cubs fans and for management, because Shota Imanaga is due a decent amount of money. And he does have a team option. He also has a player option too. So he has some decisions that we have to make here with Shota Imanaga. See the episode from last week as I dive into detail on what those options are. But the Chicago Cubs are actually linked to have somebody that could potentially replace Shota Imanaga should they want to part ways with him altogether. That meaning the team doesn't pick up the club option, Shota doesn't pick up his player option, and we're left without Shota being a free agent going into next season. Well, then the Chicago Cubs would have an open roster spot, a starting pitcher spot. And this guy is one that is familiar to our team because he dominated the Chicago Cubs when they went back to Houston to play the Astros in the 2025 season, that being nobody other than Framber Valdez, who is the ace or one of the aces of the Chicago Cubs. I'm sorry, of the Houston Astros, who could potentially be coming over to the Chicago Cubs. They've been linked together. So Bleacher Report's Zachary D. Reimer believes that the Cubs should pursue Houston Astros ace Framber Valdez either as a replacement for Imanaga or just another addition to become the ace of the squad. He said this in his article. He said, the more difficult call concerns Imanaga. The Cubs hold a 3-year, $57 million club option, whereas he has a $15 million player option for 2026 if they decline the club option. Given he took a sizable step backward in 2025, the end result may well be him becoming a free agent. Even if Imanaga does stick around, this rotation will be crying out for an upgrade after a year when it was generally solid, but mostly aceless. Valdez would give them a dependable number one starter, and he would surely love having Dansby Swanson and Nico Horner backing him on the infield. So, again, Valdez is somebody that was, for the most part, with the Houston Astros, a very, very, very good pitcher. He was their ace. He was their go-to guy. And again, he found himself really, really struggling towards the end of the 2025 season, leading to a posting of a 3.66 ERA, a record of 13-11, a WHIP of 1.245, and 187 Ks over 192 innings pitched. Before the trade deadline, he had a record of 11-4 and a 2.62 ERA with 141 Ks. So I guess the question that we would have to ask ourselves is, can we get him here to Chicago? Can we get him in our pitching lab? And can we find out what caused him to regress towards the end of last year that caused him to rack up those runs and caused him to basically virtually lose pretty much every game, every start after the trade deadline outside of two? I mean, like I said, he when he faced the Chicago Cubs, he went off. But again, like I said, he did find himself having problems and struggling down the stretch of the season. One thing we know about the Chicago Cubs, they love to rehab pitchers, especially somebody the caliber of a Valdez. And again, what if, and not him, but what if he isn't necessarily a starting pitcher anymore? What if you move him into a closing role, or what if you move him into the role of coming out in relief? I mean, there's many options out here. And again, Wrigley Field plays different than most parks because of the wind constantly always blowing in. So some of his issue had to be that short porch over there in left field at the Astros Stadium. I always want to call it Minute Maid Park, even though it's not that anymore. But anyways, that can be a big issue for pitchers because, again, that short porch over there allows for a lot of home run balls that would not be home run balls in other ballparks. So you look at that and you say to yourself, this is a guy that can come in and with the wind blowing in, basically hold teams scoreless and look like the all-star that he has been for the many years he pitched for the Houston Astros. He could potentially come and do that here in Chicago for the Cubs, and the Cubs are starved for an ace. Remember, Justin Steele is up and moving, and he's throwing. He's doing different drills and stuff like that. He is not fully cleared yet to go fully back into practicing. He is still rehabbing. But again, he is concerned with coming back to the Chicago Cubs and helping them win. But I would not expect to see Justin Steele into maybe late June, early July. I would be highly shocked if he's pitching during the beginning of the season. So the Chicago Cubs have to take an account for that. And with that, you have to have the pieces available in order to provide still a winning season for this team and to keep up with everybody else in your division. So in my estimation, Valdez is a great option for the Chicago Cubs. He can easily come into Chicago and become a number two and be a mentor to the Chicago Cubs ace, Cade Horton, who is obviously the future of the Cubs. Again, this is just somebody that I look at and I say to myself, man, if you could pursue Framber Valdez, I was very impressed with his outing against the Chicago Cubs, and I think that he brings a lot to the team. But I want to know from you what you guys think. Do you guys want the Chicago Cubs to potentially go after Framber Valdez? Is he somebody that you think that the Chicago Cubs should potentially try to go out there and get? And if so, what's your thoughts on it? Again, we're going to be talking about it. We got a long winter ahead of us where we're going to be doing weekly shows talking about different potential pieces that the Chicago Cubs could subtract or add to help make this team better. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. But one piece that some are hoping comes back and others are saying goodbye is Kyle Tucker. And we have more news on him right after this. I have been talking ad nauseum, and I still will continue to talk about the product, the brand that has changed my life and can change yours too. What's that product? It's Dubby. It's an all-natural energy supplement that you can take on the daily to help you get through those urges, those moments when you want to nap, then when you hit the cliff, or if you had a long night the night before and need to get through another crazy day of the hustle and bustle, the 9 to 5, whatever you got going on. Dubby is your energy drink. That's right. Not to mention, when you buy a container of W, it actually equals out to almost $1 per drink. You can mix it in with whatever you want, whether that be a juice, whether that be a water, whether that be some type of other energy flavored drink, whatever you want, you can mix W with it and it will do the trick for you. Guys, I don't understand what you're waiting on. W takes care of everything for you. All you have to do is go on to the W website and place your order. And at this time, when you do that, all you have to do is put in Cubs Central Pod 2024. That's right, Cubs Central Pod 2024. And you get 10% off on your W order. That's right. Hey, listen, guys, I'm telling you right now, Jitterless Energy. They have all different types of different flavors for you. W has what you need. Be better with W. The rich only seem to get richer in the MLB, which is why we are headed towards a 2027 MLB strike where there will be no season and you might even get interim players that are not technically MLB players playing in 2027 or 2028 because we are headed towards a lockout because the rich just keep on getting richer, which is why we are looking at Rob Manfred and their league are looking at potentially doing a type of salary cap, just like the NFL, just like the NBA, because of the fact that teams aren't spending money and other teams are willing to spend money. Who's willing to spend money? Well, the Dodgers are willing to spend money. Who's not willing to spend money? Well, the Pirates aren't willing to spend any money. The St. Louis Cardinals aren't willing to spend any money. Hey, the Chicago Cubs really ain't willing to spend a lot of money either. Remember, the richest contract in Cubs history is Dansby Swanson. Before that, it was who? Jason Hayward. That's right. Jason Hayward had the highest contract in Chicago Cubs history before that. So we're looking at this and we're saying to ourselves, the rich are getting richer here. And the Dodgers are planning on getting really rich. The Dodgers are trying to gather up as many talent for as many years as they possibly can. What do I mean by that? I mean that they are in pursuit, hot pursuit already. They know they pretty much already got this world. They already know they have a trip to the World Series in the bag, but they are trying to win this World Series, but also planning 3 World Series is down the line. What are they doing? They are trying to come after Kyle Tucker. The rumor out on the streets is $350 million in a mega contract to Kyle Tucker for 10 years of service underneath the Los Angeles Dodgers. That's putting him basically the rest of his career in Los Angeles, becoming a Dodger, being their outfielder, and they're probably moving over to DH eventually, which, like I said, the ballpark itself plays well. A lot less pressure there to perform and succeed than in Chicago or in other places where you're looked at as the guy. You go to the Dodgers where Ohtani will be there for the rest of his career. You're basically playing with Babe Ruth. And you know what I'm saying? Then on top of that, you have, Freddie Freeman, who is no slouch at the ballpark either. Eventually I'm sure that they'll end up getting another third baseman that'll be awesome. Also, like I said, to replace who they have there now. So again, you look at all of this, you got Mookie Betts, you got all this different talent. Then of course they went and got, all of the Japanese pitchers over there also. I mean, I look at this and I wanted to bring this up, not necessarily because I expect Kyle Tucker to sign this deal. I mean, he'd be crazy if he didn't. If somebody's going to offer you $350 million to play, and on top of that, you at least going to win and maybe 2, possibly 3 World Series is out of that, I'm taking it. But at the same time, there are some that embrace the grind. This contract, whether he signs this contract or not, will tell you a lot about Kyle Tucker. It will tell you a lot about whether or not he wishes to embrace the grind or if he is cool with just, being a guy on the team. And that's not to say that Freddie Freeman is cool with just being a guy on the team. That's not to say Mookie Betts is just cool with being a guy on the team, but it's kind of to say those guys are cool with being a guy on the team. It's Shohei's team. You already know that. I mean, they like literally after that 3-run, 6 strikeout game that he had against the Brewers in the closeout game, they're ready to crown him better than Babe Ruth. Some people are saying he's better than Babe Ruth. Like I said, and I guess time is erasing Babe Ruth's history and his stats and whatnot. But at the same time, you look at this and you say to yourself, dude, where's the hustle at? But also, you can't blame Kyle Tucker in the same breath. I have two mindsets about this. I'm upset because I'm like, where's the hustle there? Like, I appreciate somebody like a D Rose and like a Joakim Noah who was like, I don't want LeBron James. I don't want Dwayne Wade to come to Chicago. I want to beat those guys. Like, who's going to stand up and say, like, I want to beat those guys? Like, I don't want to go join those guys. I want to beat those guys. Like, who in the National League is going to say, like, I'm not joining up with y'all. You know what I'm saying? I want to beat those guys. I don't want to play with y'all. I want to play against you. Like, where's that competition at? I would have so much respect for Kyle Tucker if he turned down $350 million in 10 years. I don't expect it to happen, but I would have so much respect for him if he did that. But at the same time, I can't blame him. I can't blame him if he's like, screw that, man. Because none of these other teams out here are trying to pay, including Chicago. Milwaukee not trying to pay. They finna strut out that same team next year that took the first place from the Chicago Cubs, that went on 2 14-game win streaks, and they will do what they're going to do. The Chicago Cubs, I do expect them to add pitching. I do also expect them to get creative with how they do things. And they will be just fine if they're the number 1 wild card seed, number 2 wild card seed. They will be just fine with that. They will be fine and dandy with that, unfortunately. Phillies are talking about making moves. They're expected not to re-sign Nicholas Castellanos. Maybe they could be trying to go after Kyle Tucker. Maybe they could be trying to figure out how to get off the contract of Bryce Harper, who hadn't done squat in 3 years. I just say all this to say, like, as mad as I want to be at Kyle Tucker, I can't blame him. It's Los Angeles. It's La La Land. You're playing with one of the greatest players that God has ever created in Shohei Ohtani. And then you got one of the best first basemen God has ever created in Freddie Freeman. You got 2 awesome pitchers in Yamamoto and Sasaki, and Ohtani pitching. And you got straight up a great center fielder, a great second baseman in Mookie Betts. And he'll probably end up moving over to the third base eventually and being able to play over there too. I can't blame Kyle Tucker if they come hand him the keys and say, listen, all we need for you to do is to hit a home run every now and then and make your plays out in the outfield. Versus the Chicago Cubs, they're going to say, listen, we signed you to this contract. We're dependent on you. It's you or nothing. Which would you choose? I'm just saying. You can't blame Kyle Tucker if he goes to the Dodgers. Blame these POS organizations that cry broke, even though they are making hand over fist money between the merch, between the tickets, between packing out the arenas, between all that they get, between the new TV deals that's about to happen, all this different stuff, and all of them are swearing, hey, we're just breaking even. Hey, we're just getting by. We're headed to a lockout because these ownerships refuse to pay this money. We will miss 2027 baseball because these ownerships refuse to pay this money. That's just honest. I can't blame Kyle Tucker for signing this deal and winning the World Series next year, and then taking this whole year off to be able to chill. Psst, I would. You would too. It's sad, man. I put the blame on the ownership. But you guys let me know. Be in the comments with me. Talk with me. Who are you blaming for this? Do you think the players are greedy? Or do you think it's ownership? I happen to think it's ownership. But we'll see. That's my episode for today, man. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in, for watching. Until next time, go Cubs, go. Peace.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.